Hello, welcome. This is Chaos Nature. Welcome to today's tutorial on how to configure Overbots, Overlord bots. I always get my tongue twisted when I try to say the name. It's a Overlord bots. There is Overlord programs already running on DCS. So this is just an Overlord bots. This was actually created by a group of well, not a group of a developer. Right at the moment it's just one developer, and bless him, he's very tied up with a lot of stuff, and he's very helpful. And yeah, all thanks goes to him for developing this little application. And they do have a Discord channel which you can visit for support and help if you do require it. I think the gentleman's call sign is dot 12 Ruron Jones. So thanks to Jones for the development. So we're just going to how to configure this. This has already been, you know, stated in on the GitHub website, but there are a few steps that are missing in my opinion. So I decided to put this video together to help those who are struggling the way I struggled when I was putting this together. So if you go to GitHub, you have the instructions on how to install the gRPC, and from installing the gRPC you also get links to a few other aspect of the configuration for other stuff that's not to do with gRPC. But I'm going to try and simplify this to you. So the first thing you want to do is go into that site and then download the zip file, and then you download the zip file, and then you install the GPRS. I think you just once you download it, you extract it. I extracted mine onto my GPS, onto my save games DCS server, and let me see if I can locate it. Blah, blah, blah. So yes, it should be right. So actually, you extract it onto the script folder, and those are the files. And so once you have these files, then there's actually one file that you would have to edit, and that file I will show you now. So this file is where you have to edit, and the location of the file. So you edit that file, and you drop that file onto this location here. Let me see if I open that folder up. So this is where you drop the file. So this is the file that you're editing. So the original file probably have a lot of stuff in it. Just get rid of everything and make sure you only have these lines in here. I could have used my IP address, IP config. I could have used that address, but I just decided to use 0000, so that in case if I want to clone this server, because I have quite a few DCS servers, so I don't have to come back here and start changing IP again. So it just reduces the workload on my side in terms of like duplicating servers. So you also make sure that you choose a port. If you have more than one server, you'll be obviously changing this to 5.2, 5.3, and so on. You can also use one server to host the GPR to this gRPC. You can point the other DCS servers to this server that you're configuring. But I have it configured on each of the servers, just in case if one server goes down, everything doesn't go down with it. So the next thing that you will want to configure once you're done with that is make sure that this MissionScripting.lua is also edited, and that's I think where's that? That's here. I should put in order actually. So this MissionScripting.lua, you can find it in this location. Yeah, that's already there. So you just go in there and then you add this line. That's all you're doing with this MissionScripting.lua file. This will already exist. You just add that line. Once that's done, the next thing that you want to configure is the actual Overbot configuration YAML file. The YAML file, when you download the Overbot application. I have actually decided to so you download the file, and once you download it, you extract it, and then you would have the YAML file in the documentation. You just copy it into here, rename it, and then open it up with your text editor, and you will get this. And you would want to change these values here. So you want to give it your whatever name you want to give it. That can be anything, but the endpoint ID will be given to you by the developer, and the subscription key you will get from your Azure, the from the speech and the language file that you have configured. I will show you that now. So you would have already configured the resource group and have this speech file, this language understanding AI application created, also speech AI application created, and each of them will have a key, and the key, two keys, you only really need one. And then you would have an endpoint. You also be using this endpoint in the configuration file, which goes here. You see, right? So the endpoint for the speech is provided by the developer. The key you get from the Azure application. That's the key. For the language aspect, so that was the speech. I'm trying not to. I hope I'm not trying to confuse you here. So let's start again. So the speech, you get the endpoint key from the developer, which is this. You get the endpoint key from the developer, and then the key you will get from here. That's for the speech. Now we'll go back to the language. The language, you would get the key from here, and you insert it in here as well. So that's the language where this says key. You insert it in here, and then the endpoint, you will get that from here. Well, that's that done. So once you're done with that's all you need to get from the Azure aspect and put into this YAML configuration file. And then the Discord aspect of it, I did took an attempt to try to install the Discord integration. I think I did not succeed, but I think the bottom line here is you have some JS file. you have the JSON file. This you create another JSON file, and then you put all of them into a folder, which I did. See the folder that I created here, put everything into the folder, and it didn't really work actually, but I didn't have time to troubleshoot it. I'll do another video on that when I get it working. So moving on very swiftly, I'll try not to make this a long video. So the next thing that you consider is your SRS. So in the SRS, you would have you open up your SRS server, and you get this UI, and then you enter your password, the EAM password. And this EAM password, you also enter the same password in the YAML file where it says password. There's somewhere where it says password. Let's see, password. See where it says password there, you enter your password. By the way, everything from here down, you just delete it. It's not required because those are AWAC AWAC providers from different regions. I am North. I'm using North, so I remove everything. So I remove redo. So I remove everything from here down. I'm only using this AWAC. If you don't, then you end up with so many clients connected. Right now I've got 2 clients connected. That's because I have both the service running. You can run this as a service as well. So I have this is the line. This is the line that I used to run, that I used to create a service, an automatic service that runs the bots. It just points to the directory of the Overbots, which is, like I said before, I installed it on Save Games and DCS folder Overbots. This same Overlord-Bots.console.exe, I have it on my desktop, and if you fire it up, you would get an interface which tells you a lot more what's going, sort of like a log. It gives you a log as well of what's going on. So I used to run this when I wanted to debug and understand what's going on. So you can actually run this, and the service is run, and the Overbot service is running. It will not be running as a service, but it will be running as an application. But I do have it installed as a service, so you only ever need to use one or the other. So if you're running this as a service, you don't need to run this. Otherwise, you will have 2 interfaces. You will have two clients, a worked client logged into your SRS, and the ramification of that is that, you know, when you do a request to Overlord, to the Overlord-Bots, that will give you a that will give you a result. So you have 2 voices overlapping each other. You get echo, and you know that's not really a nice thing to be dealing with when you're in a situation when you really need a situation awareness under pressure. Another thing as well is the reason why I remove all this, because if you don't remove all this, each of these this is one, another AWAC, that's another AWAC. You have all of them registered here as well. So you have a lot of AWACs here. So that's why I said remove them, all the lines. So now that you've configured that, make sure also to configure. Forget about it. Like I said, forget about Discord. Let's not complicate anything here. Make sure that so make sure you've entered the right key, the endpoint, this application ID here. You pick one from whichever zone you're from, I'm from Europe, so I pick that, I replace it, and I place it there, and that's basically it. Yeah, so subscription key, you enter that, and then the endpoint key, you enter that. That's basically it. That's all you need to do with the YAML file, and that's it. So now, the DRS auto connect. Make sure if you're doing, you should already have this configured anyway. If your client log into your server, it automatically connects them. This is the file that you edit. You put your domain name or your IP, and then the port that your SRS is using, and the file location again is here. Script hooks. So it's save games. DCS OpenBeta server script hooks. So you edit that file, and your users will be able to log in to your SRS automatically. So again, make sure that the DCS-gRPC this port is open, and you've changed that to 000. So it takes, if you have more than one network interface, I suggest that you use your IP so that it doesn't confuse things, basically. So the next one that you want to focus on is let's talk about the debugging aspect of it. So usually, if you have checked your list and everything is configured right, then um, you should have this log dropped in when you start DCS. You should have this log dropped into this location, the DCS open beta server, if it's open beta server log. And also you can also check this DCS log as well, and just do a find, and do a find for gRPC, and then you should see what's going on. If there's errors, if it's successful, you want to actually see that, and that's how you know that you've got it configured correctly and it's working. So you configure the gRPC, you have configured the MissionScripting.lua, and then you have configured the auto. This you should have already had that configured, and then the YAML file you configure. Those are the files that you need to configure to get this whole setup working. So like I said, I use the Overbots Overbot and service. So I don't really need to use this. I just do control cancel on that, and it should stop and get rid of itself. So the notes that I was keeping, I just leave that. You can just rewind and take your time to look through. So I kept this note when I was doing my configuration, and the reason why I kept this note is in case if I do need to reference back to what was changed and what was done. I got the logs here. So this that's the UI, that's the port which is irrelevant, right, to this configuration. The ports that the UI uses, this UI uses. At first I did open it up, but I later realized that it's just a local thing. It doesn't really go out, so you don't need to open up unless if you want to access this page externally, then you need to open that up on your firewall. This actually is the one that the DCS used to provide a game service to serve your game. So that one you should open it up on your firewall. I don't know if maybe let me see. Yeah, you can see it there. So that port should be open, and SRS port, obviously, yeah, that should be open as well on your firewall. And in case if you do have issues, the applications. By the way, I did mention that this is how I use. This is the PowerShell command I used to create this service for the Overbot, so that the the Overbot starts as a service. And there are other stuff as well, unlocking applications. So sometimes the application might be locked, so you can just basically just run these command lines to unlock, the application file, so that your Overbot can write or read from it. And this, you just basically just copy this and run the commands. If you're troubleshooting as well, you can just turn off your firewalls. I think it's Windows firewalls.msc, msc, yeah. You can turn off your firewall just to troubleshoot, turn them off to see if it will help any situation in case if your GPRS is not working or something is not working. But I don't recommend leaving that turned off. As you can see, I've got them turned on. It's better you configure it than I think one thing that you have to note is, in case in order not to turn off your firewall, you should run these commands, to allow the inbound ports. This command allows the inbound ports. That's not necessary, but you might as well just run that as well. There's the tag view one, which is irrelevant here, which I did as well. And that will be relevant. Run that. So that will allow communication through the domain. I think it's the domain one. When I did mine, it was a domain firewall that we had an issue with. Let me just close that down now. So Overbot, close it, and yeah. So yeah, so that would be all that you would need to configure to get this Overbot up and running. Again, you can always refer back to the documentations. If maybe some of you might not have problem with this documentation, some of you might find something missing from the documentation, but I'm just trying to, the whole purpose of this video is to hopefully close the gap that this document didn't close. I think there's probably other documents, maybe not, don't quote me. And yeah, so hopefully I've covered as much as I can on this aspect of configuring. I think if I just want to run over it again one more time. I really want you to succeed in your installation, so that's why this is probably looking like a long video. So I think, yeah, I was going through the list here. So yeah, we've done the SRS, and then you should know your SRS directory in case if you want to go there and edit files. These are LoA files. Just go into that LoA file, and make sure that the ports that you've entered and the IP address is correct. The domain name that it's answering to is correct. It takes you seconds to just go to do this. So go through it, and it should save you. We talked about this already. That's the file that was replaced in that mission.lua file, which is here, mission.lua file. You see the location there. Yeah. So we're just going over this again. So yeah, that's the Overbot directory. I had mine installed, like I said, in the save games of DCS folder. I also had another copy which I was messing around with in program files, but I don't need that. If I start that, I start having so many clients, logged in here, and I already explained the situation there. So you also have your language understanding file from Azure, and was the password. Yeah, so the EAM password, we talked about that. You enter that into your SRS, your SRS here, which doesn't want to show up now, but yeah, you know what I mean. And then you can also enter the password through here as well. The config file is here. You can enter the password through here, the SRS file. And then the logs are here. These are the logs location. These are all the logs that you get in that location. And then the Discord, like I said, I've done another video on the Discord for the Discord integration. And yeah, that's it. I hope this was informative and helpful. And that's it from Chaos Nature. Take care.